So you can't talk about being an entrepreneur today without bringing up the name Patrick Bet-David. The man's got the #1 channel on YouTube for entrepreneurs, Valuetainment. But let me share with you something that you may not know. He offers mentoring packages here. One session is going to cost you $20,000. If you want to work with this man for 12 months, it's going to cost you $100,000. Okay, now he did give us a slight discount because we went to the Vault conference. But I'm sharing this with you because I want you to know the caliber of the person that you're getting ready to listen to. His time is valuable. So for the next few moments, what I'd like for you to do, when you listen to Patrick's answers, listen with the mindset that he's talking through me to you. Because I went down to Dallas on your behalf. I am an advocate for my Roundup family. So let's get right to it. This is going to be my day with Patrick Bet-David. Happy Memorial Day, everybody, from the Haskins family.
You can stop asking questions. Get with Kris Haskins. Look, that's the method. You don't have to own nothing but control it all. Sub 2 on the 5, we gon' show it all. Trust me like you trust a trustee. We gon' give the game that you must see. Real real estate methods, you can trust me. Wanna change your life? Let us set the tone. We generate generational wealth and let it be known. We ain't playing with them, yeah, we stand with them. We getting bands with them. Open up your mind and playing fluid in advance too. We gon' give you the ins and outs and ins. You won't hope for the future, ask Kris Haskins.
Today's video is sponsored by Fund and Grow. They set up business credit lines that aren't tied to your personal credit score. Now you could use that money to go buy your next investment property, to do renovations on your house, marketing for your company, new office space, to get a lease, buy inventory, or just growing your business in general. Now, since we do so much volume with these guys, they're giving my Roundup family a discount on their services. But the only way to get that discount is you've got to go through my special link. It's located in the description of this video below. Head on over there to find out how much you qualify for. Greetings, class. This is Kris Haskins with the realestateroundup.com. My mission and ministry is to raise your financial literacy through real estate investing and entrepreneurship. Today, I get the honor and privilege to hang out with the #1 entrepreneur, influential entrepreneur of today. The man is helping millions of people around the world in business principles. He's a published author. He's got a new book coming out from what I hear too. He's the CEO and founder of PHP Agency as well as Valuetainment, the #1 channel for entrepreneurs on YouTube. The channel is approaching 2 million subscribers and over 200 million views. Good God, I can't even get those words out. 200 million views. His company started with 60 agents. Now he has over 15,000 agents in 10 years. Honor and privilege to meet my brother, Patrick Bet-David. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How you doing?
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yes, sir. Let's get right to it. Patrick, how does it feel just to have such an impact on so many people? I mean, I just cannot imagine how many people you've touched. It's got to be, obviously it's in the millions, but how does it feel?
I don't know if I think about it that way. I will tell you what does feel good. When I hear the testimonies of saying, I was doing $1 million a year and then I got hooked up to the content, I'm now doing $12 million a year, and this is when I got hooked up to it and this is what it did, or I wasn't somebody that running a business, now I am. Last year we did $2.8 million. Those testimonies of how lives are changed, that's where the reward comes back. So that feels good to hear. The stories, knowing the philosophies and concepts are actually working.
Wow. You know, Pat, you could have easily just been an entrepreneur as opposed to sharing the story of entrepreneurs, the life. What made you say, you know what, as opposed to just running a business, now you teach about it. Where did that vision come from?
To want to create Valuetainment and create content on entrepreneurship.
Yes.
So for me, I come from the place of always thinking about what I want and what I wish was out there. So I wish the 22-year-old Pat had a Valuetainment channel to consume content at any time. So I said, there's got to be a 22-year-old Pat out there that has the need for some content like this. So I'm going to put it out there. And then next thing you know, there wasn't just one 22-year-old Pat. There was a lot of people that wanted to get the content in. So it was more about knowing the fact that you can reach out to people. And then on the second side, that why I put it together is very simple. In 2004, Ron Paul, as a 69-year-old, ran for office to be a president, and on MySpace, within 24 hours, raised $6 million, okay, in '04. So then right after that, you have a one-term senator that goes and gives a message at the Democratic National Convention out of Chicago, and he becomes our president. That's Barack Obama. He becomes a two-term president. And then Trump becomes president after that. He had never been in politics before. So one-term senator becomes a president, and a guy who's never been in politics before becomes president. Why is that? It's because of MySpace, Facebook. MySpace then, not now, but MySpace then was powerful. Is because of Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, videos, reaching out people. So today, when you're seeing guys like even one of the candidates that was running for office, Pete Buttigieg, everybody was concerned about what he could potentially do as a 38-year-old. Why were so many people concerned that this guy could compete? Because Zuck from Facebook gave him one of his best developers, ad guys, to do his campaign, and they gave him money and they backed it up with ad campaign. Next thing you know, he comes up to poll. So what it means today is if you're going to create content, there's a part of it also that you have to control narrative because you got two brands you're building. 30 years ago, you built one brand, and it was your company. You're selling the company, you're selling the product, that's the product you're building. Today, you got two brands. You got the company and you got you. So when the company is small, you are more important than the brand. Then eventually a shift takes place where the brand becomes bigger than you. Like, you know, for example, you got a Jeff Bezos. It's Jeff Bezos. Then it's Amazon. Now Amazon's bigger than Jeff Bezos. Zuck, Facebook, Jobs, Apple. So until that takes place, you're needed. So if you don't build your brand today, this doesn't get as much notice as you do if you do this. So you have to be controlling the narrative, and one way to do it is to create content.
I hear you talk about that. I'm skipping around here, your digital footprint. I remember I went to go buy a lady's house. Pat, when I showed up at the door, she goes, I already know who you are. So I hear you talk about your digital footprint. What makes it so important? And for a lot of people are like, I'm scared to get in front of the camera, Pat. What can you give advice for them?
There's three things. If you have a voice, you have podcast and video. If you're a good writer, write. If you're comfortable on camera and you're a good communicator, then create content on YouTube. So you got write, audio, and visual, right? If you're uncomfortable with the video part, just write. There's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of people right now, I mean, a lot of analysts right now who have a lot of pull simply because they're writing. There's a lot of powerful journalists today. There's a lot of powerful bloggers today. There's a guy I know that when I watch him on camera, he's not that good. He's actually extremely uncomfortable on camera. But when I read his stuff, I have other people who are very good on camera but terrible writers. I prefer to read his stuff than watch the other guy on camera. So if you're not good on camera, write. If you got a good voice, put it to use. And if you're comfortable with camera, do that. But you got options. One cannot make an excuse today and say, well, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. I'm not going to do this because of this. Nope, there's plenty of stuff to do things today with. But you got to start somewhere, and then eventually, you know, I can tell you, like with camera, when I first started vlogging and you got a camera on you, you're kind of like, oh my gosh, people are looking at you with the camera on. And then 6 months later, you don't see the camera anymore. The camera doesn't even exist. You're just kind of existing and just kind of being yourself, and the audience feels it. But at first, the awkward mechanical phase, the audience also feels that as well.
Well, you're not shy of giving out your personal stuff and your business stuff. A lot of people are like, well, I just don't want to have all this stuff out there.
Yeah, I get it, but you know, there's a big difference when social media came out, what it did to the world. The day social media took off, we officially became naked. Everybody's naked. Like I can spend 5 minutes and I can find out if he likes Trump or not. I don't even need 5 minutes. I can go on his Facebook profile, and within 20 posts, I will see where he's at politically. I will find out if he's got a wife and kids. I will find out if he's a Tinder guy, if he's a Bumble guy. I can find out if he's a dating guy. I can find out if he played football, sports, what kind of money he makes, if he's a church guy, faith-based guy, I can see I learned so much about him, right? So we're officially naked. So if we're officially naked, and the moment you're naked and you accept it, like when you join the army, there's the awkward moment when you join the army. Let me explain to you what the awkward moment is. So you join the army and you go to the barracks and you heard 1,000,001 stories. And so you're kind of like, man, you know, let's see what's going to happen. And if you haven't played sports and you're not used to showering with 20 players, you know, you're kind of like when you're an athlete, you're going to go into a gym, you're playing football, you go, you do this. there's this awkward moment that happens. Like, listen, man, I don't know these 20 people, man. We're in the shower. We're like small little, because in the military, you take a shower, there's 10 shower heads coming out, and there's 10 guys taking showers next to each other. First time you go there, you're like, this is kind of uncomfortable, man. Second time, third time, after a week or 2 weeks, you're like, listen, I'm just taking a shower. So it's a similar thing. The moment you realize you're naked, then you start washing your hair, okay? So the moment you realize everyone's naked today with social media, look, people already know who you are. People already know how much you hate Trump, or how much you hate, Obama, or how much you hate Lakers or Clippers, and how much you love Miami, or whatever it is. They already know. We need to kind of set that aside and start kind of sharing more, because people already know plenty about you. It shouldn't be a worry nowadays.
Good. Well, I want my roundup family to know that, listen, if you're doing this, maybe it's okay for them to do it too. That's all.
Yes.
Oh man, I'm busting at the seams to talk about real estate, but we're going to get there in a minute. Good gracious. Your videos are amazing, Pat. Thank you for putting them out. Could you just go over just a 40,000 foot view of how you put them together? Is it just you in here scriggling away, or you got a team?
That's a very good question. So look, we can go through the system. So here's what typically happens. So let's talk about the interviews, how the interviews come up. So I have a group, and my group comes in every Tuesday at 9:15 or 9 o'clock. Everybody has come up with a list of names of guests that they propose to interview. And the guests they bring, half of them have to be business related, the other half have to be weird stories, unique stories. Some of it can be related about what's going on today. Like, for example, if today's topic is coronavirus, I want the biggest experts to come here and talk to me. If we got going on with China and 5G, I want a General Spalding from Air Force who lived in China 3 years, and he has so much experience. Come and tell us about what's going on with China really that we don't know about. So that's that part when it comes down to content with interviews. The other side about the team, what we do is Kai will sit down and will say, I need a list of how-tos. Today he came up to me with a list of 20 how-tos. That's Tuesday videos. And he'll come up to me and I'll sit there and I'll say, yeah, check, no, yes, no. Okay, these 19 are good, but I like these 7 for now, and I like these 2 for today, okay? Because it's more timely. Or I'll take some of his how-tos and I'm like, you know what if we do this? Because sometimes ideas, when they team up together, they give birth to a better idea. And then all of a sudden, I think we need to do video on this. And then my research team goes back, they do plenty of research, they come back, I look about 20, 30 pages of research, and then I decipher it down into my own notes. That's when I start typing a little bit. And then I put it together, then I go right on the board with a certain sequencing of how the notes go up, and then we have a how-to. And then Motivation Monday is typically more off the cuff. We're kind of seeing what's going on with the market, with the day, with the week, what message is going on, what happened to me that week. There's always a bunch of individual stories that happened to me that week, whether it was from a board or kids or family or travel or negotiation or a deal that didn't go through, and I find a way to turn that into a Motivation Monday. So that's kind of how we create content.
So how does Kyle come up with, he's out there just searching? I mean, obviously you have your thoughts about what your audience wants to see.
So that's a great question. So the people I like to hire on the team are valuetainers, okay? So Kai is a valuetainer from Norway who came here and he applied to get a job. Year and a half after going back and forth with him, we finally accepted him. We brought him on board because there was a risk on what we had to do for somebody that's coming from there. So he already has consumed the content, so he already kind of knows who I am. I don't have to ask him to find out who I am. It's very easy to work with him. The gentleman that we just hired to be one of our sales guys, Jaron, when we first crossed 100,000 subs or 250,000 subs, I put a contest together for people to come here. They made videos. He made a real fun video. So I came out, he came out, it was 10 of them. He was one of them. That was 4 years ago, right when he came out. But he became a valuetainer. From there till today, I mean, he got a Valuetainment tattoo on his back and he showed me the tattoo to say, this is how committed I am to be part of the team. So I brought him on board. The reason why he's easy to sell, because he's seen every single video. So if he is selling anybody or talking to anybody, he's not talking about, he's not a green guy that doesn't know the story. So when you have teammates that have been with you for a while or they know the language, they know what content they want to see and they know what content the consumer wants and they come up with it. So it's not just off the cuff, here's what I think. Like a guy coming off the streets couldn't do that.
Gotcha. Pat, I've heard you say many times that you chose not to invest in real estate. I'm remembering back when you were on stage at the Vault. You specifically said you didn't. Well, let me ask you. Is that what you chose not to do? I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Yeah, sure. So let me explain to you why. And I'll go through multi-dimension, and at any point you want to push me on anything, please do so, because that's when the conversation gets fun. So here's how my brain works, just so you know that. My brain is somebody that's an essentialist. I think there's a book out there called Essentialism. I think it's called Essentialism, something like that. Phenomenal book that I recommend reading, because as I'm reading this book and I'm going more and more and more into it, I'm like, you know what, this is how I'm wired. For me, years ago, everything in my mind is a mathematical formula. And if I don't have a formula and I'm not crystal clear, I won't execute on it, because I have to get to x times 3 equals 9, x equals 3, right? Or x times 9 equals 10, x equals 10. 90, x equals 10. So I have to have the mathematical formula on what behaviors together leads to a result.
Equals.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever on this side equals this.
Exactly. So if I do this, and if I do this, and I take this out, I make $1 million. But if I do this, and if I do this, and I don't take this out, I make $300,000. Then I have to take this out. So years ago, I'm at Bally's. I'm selling memberships. And this was 1999, 2000. And if you remember that time, the market, Boiler Room came out with Ben Affleck, and Ben Affleck with Vin Diesel and some of these guys that are acting in this movie, and they're working at JT Marlin, stockbrokers, and I'm watching Wall Street with Bud Fox and all these guys. And then at Bally's, all of a sudden, because one of the things about Bally's, they produce incredible salespeople, very good salespeople. All of a sudden, there's a mass exodus, okay? And 90% of the guys left to real estate, okay?
Left to go to real estate.
They went to real estate. So they either went to loans.
Selling memberships to real estate.
Okay. Yeah, but you have to realize the one thing about Bally's, there's about a handful of companies that have incredible sales trainers that other companies recruit away from. Xerox, IBM, there's a list of them, right? That their sales training system is impeccable, that is transferable to other industries. So a bunch of guys leave. And I start kind of looking at everybody, seeing where they're going. And I notice they're going to real estate. I'm like, okay, interesting.
What year was this?
This is 99, 2000. 2000. So I'm looking at everybody, I'm like, okay, everybody's going to real estate. Why are they going to real estate? Well, because of this, okay.
These are salespeople.
These are salespeople that are going to real estate.
All right.
So then I sat there and I said, you know what? I don't know. I'm looking at real estate. So at that point, I realized I'm going to sell, because I know the highest paid skill set in the world is sales, period. You can't do nothing about it. So now it's about what product I want to sell. So I'm a bodybuilder, so I went and studied if there's any money in selling nutritionals and all this stuff. I said, nope, it's not what I'm going to be doing, because you can buy a product that's selling for $80 at GNC on a website for $29. I'm at that game, because I'm not going to have that wholesale negotiation. So I went and looked at pharmaceutical sales. I went and looked at telecommunication sales. I went and looked at everybody. Then I looked at what industry nobody was looking at, because it was too boring. See, I like to go to places that seem boring, and I like to make it sexy. Insurance was so boring that if you ever went to an insurance conference, they had to take the knives away, because people will literally slit their wrists because of how boring these conventions are. Matter of fact, they made a movie called, what is the movie called, insurance movie about Iowa. Cedar Rapids is what the movie's called. And the whole movie's about how terrible these insurance conferences are. If you watch this movie, you will feel sorry for insurance agents. So I'm looking at this industry, I'm like, you know what? It's a boring industry. No one wants to be a part of it. And it's mainly predominantly white, 59-year-old white male. At that time, it was 57-year-old white male, 55-year-old white male. I said, okay, I'm going to get into it. So I'm dating a girl who's working at Morgan Stanley Dean with her. Her name is Jean-Vier. I've said her name 20 times. I'm waiting for the day that I get a message saying this is me, because that was 20 years ago, because she would tell a real good testimony of our conversation. So her and I meet at Venice Beach, and she's working at Morgan Stanley Dean with her, and she's managing all the Lakers players. And I said, look, I'm thinking about going into real estate, telecommunication, all this stuff. What do you think? She says, you should go into stocks. I said, tell me why. She said, well, here's why. This is what I do. Here's how much money. I mean, she was making like $400,000 at that time. And she'd always pick me up in a different car. I was the one that was broke. She was the one that had the money. So then finally, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go into Morgan Stanley. I go into Morgan Stanley day before 9/11. I'm Series 7, 66, 31, 26. I'm in it. Then 9/11 happened, market tanks. So after market tanks, I have a wider range to see where I'm going. I saw what insurance was. The reason why I chose insurance was because it was recession proof. If the market goes up, you do well. If the market goes down, you do well.
But my people still have to pay rent, Pat, when the market goes down. And I'm not here to cut you off, brother.
I
I'm
actually
listening
want
to
you to do that. I'm comfortable with that.
My tenants have to pay rent, my friend. When the
You're
market
talking
goes
about
up.
as an investor if you buy.
I'm not talking about being a salesperson.
I totally get it. And I'm going to come to you here in a minute with that as well. Absolutely. Because right now I'm talking industry, then I'm going to come on the investor side to explain that part. So I decided I'm going to get into this thing, and I said, okay, this is boring. People don't like it. I don't mind being boring because I can make boring things cool. It's like you go to a club that they don't know how to do, but if you're a good promoter, a terrible club is one great promoter away from being a great club. I mean, that's literally how it is. You go to a terrible club in Vegas and you go get the right promoter with 1,000 names that are the main cool, sexy people showing up, that club's the popping place everybody wants to go to. That's why club owners are always afraid to lose the promoter. So I said, okay, I can promote. So then I went into insurance. Then 9/11 happens, market tanks. Market tanks, people wanted annuities. I'm like, oh, interesting. Why did our annuity business take off? Market went up. Then they wanted index products. Then they had the guarantees. Then I realized rich people want more insurance. The more insurance they have, they're never saying no to insurance because the richer you are, the more taxes you have to pay. So you have to have insurance. So gradually, I'm learning about markets. Then I realized parents, siblings fight the moment mom and dad die because there's not a final expense policy. So they always go to the rich brother because they say, hey, since you make all the money, you pay dad's. What do you mean I have a wife and kids? And then there's a falling out. So I'm like, let me prevent this from happening. So I started seeing the niches for me. And then I stayed in insurance, and I've been in it for a while. Now let's talk about the investment side, why I don't invest into real estate. The reason I don't is because of today. This is exactly why I don't.
But
I'll explain to you.
You're talking about coronavirus today?
I'll explain to you today. Oh my gosh.
Now, this is something this is...
No. So go last 20 years. We got 3 different events that have happened last 20 years. One of them was something you couldn't predict, which is 9/11. It wasn't something that it's not like a hurricane. Next Thursday by 3 o'clock, a hurricane is gonna hit Miami. No.
Yeah.
It's plane flew into a building at 6:30 in the morning, Pacific Standard Time, what? Second plane hit. I'm in Morgan Stanley. You couldn't have predicted that, right? So that falls into a war category, attack category, but it's still in effect. 08 happens. What is 08 a byproduct of? 08 is a byproduct of greed, right? So, okay, no income, no asset. Don't worry about it. Keep buying it, right?
No doc.
No doc. Pick a payment, whatever it is.
Negative AM.
Neg-am, all of that stuff. A program that came in from Australia. Okay. Then you have today. Today is what? Today is something that happened in 09, 010 with H1V1, with Obama was the president. We ended up having 50-something million cases. 250,000 people went to hospital. 12,000 people died. But today, due to social media being bigger and we're more sensitive, news spreads faster. Like one of the things about today people have to realize is you have to be very careful to know, like these times have to show all of us how much power media companies have. Because how much they can spread messages quickly. So for me, I prepared for cash. When I started PHP in 09, the reason why I could is because in 08, when I was sitting on a ton of cash, my wife and I went and looked at a nice property, and my friends who are in transportation were buying all these properties, rental income, duplexes, all these things that they're looking at buying. And they said, hey, why don't we go on together? It's $500,000, it's $100,000, we can get this, it's gonna give us this much income, it's gonna give us this. And I said, okay, say if I would have done that. See, I didn't do that. Because I stayed liquid, and say I take that $1 million or $500,000, let's just use. If I would have put that $500,000 and I would have bought some properties, how much income is it gonna generate me in the next 5 or 10 years? Whatever the math may be. It's set, right? But I put that $500,000 in PHP. That made me $200 million.
That's business owner.
That's business owner. So my interest is staying liquid because I want equity. For instance, today, Berkshire Hathaway was sitting on 200, what's the number? Can you find out how much cash they were sitting on? The number is astronomical. It's like $108 billion of cash, if I'm mistaken. We'll correct it here right now. They went all cash in the last couple of years. Why? Why are you cash? He's worth $89 billion. 90% of his net worth came from 10 investments. 10 investments. 90% of his net worth came from 10 investments, companies that he bought. So he's sitting there and he stays cash. Why did he stay in cash? Because everything's on sale right now. He's looking for times like this. People are drooling right now, those who are sitting on cash, because they're going to buy companies. So my specialty isn't real estate. It doesn't excite me. What excites me is helping your real estate company. What excites me is helping his production company. What excites me is buying a technology company that is a texting model that everybody is using. I'm excited about that because I see what that can do. I'm interested in that because when you hear about a Tim Draper who's in a PE world, or you're hearing about some of these names where you go make a $500,000 investment in Facebook at a good time and you know the founder's a solid guy and that $500,000 turns into $2 billion, that's what excites me. That's the direction I want to go to. Real estate doesn't excite me, even though we can't lie that real estate has produced many, many millionaires. Many, many millionaires. It's just not something that draws me in.
Okay, so the bottom line is real estate. So you're telling me that you don't invest in real estate because it doesn't excite you?
Did you say 100 billion? 100, I was off by 20 billion. 128 billion, he was sitting on cash.
I got you.
You better believe that cash is being put to use right now.
I believe that.
Yeah, so going back to saying real estate doesn't interest me. It's okay, so remember how I said everything to me is math? All I think about is, what is the highest level of scale?
I get you.
I'm a scale guy. Okay. So if I sit there and I say, how do we scale something to be 100x? How do we scale this thing to do 100 million a year? That's not me. I'm looking at a completely different ball game.
I hear you. Well, Pat, you're doing it to the highest and best. All right, one could say. What I'm talking about, let me give you this number. The IRS, I did some research, says that only about 7% of Americans own rental property. Okay? So my question is for the general public that don't own rental property, what's going to happen to our economy as they get older? They only have one form of income, Pat. You're doing it highest and best. Generally speaking, my friend, the average American, what happens? All they have is Social Security as we get older, no passive income.
Yeah, so that's a good question. So I'll give you a complete different perspective on the question you just asked. So do you know why we buy homes and why homes became the American dream where everybody started buying them? Do you know where that concept got started? Okay, so watch this. This is the part, and this is the genius, and this is a part that your industry is struggling with right now. And I'll explain to you why that is. Years ago, this is in the 50s, renters started going up, buyers started going down. If you do this research, it's a great video for you to do with your audience, especially since you're in the real estate side.
Yeah.
So renters started going up, buyers started going down. And I'm like, wait a minute, what is going on? After the crash that took place in 20s, the Great Depression, the kids of the parents that went through the Great Depression, they're like, listen, man, I don't need a house. So I saw my dad lose a house, I saw my parents, I don't need a house.
Kind of like the millennials today.
Exactly the point. Exactly the point. Exactly the point. But watch what happens. So you go in the 50s. These kids that are born in the 30s are now 25 years old. Okay? They're not needing to buy a house. They remember what happened with mommy and daddy. Man, we can't have food. Hey, man, you take this bread, you take this bread. We don't have a guys. We got to stretch this bread. We got to stretch this butter. We had to. Everything was about stretch. So everybody was a little bit timid, worried about what takes place. I don't want to buy anything. Now, fast forward, what happens? One day they meet with a marketer, and they're sitting down. They're saying, man, what do we got to do with real estate? He says, watch this. Why do people, millions, by the millions, come to America? For the American dream. What is the American dream? Free enterprise. You can go make as much money as you want to make in America. You can make 6 figures. Obviously 6 figures in the 50s and 60s is what? A lot of money. You can make 6 figures. Today 6 figures, you're not making a lot of money. 6 figures, you make a lot of money. Okay, cool. So where are you going with this? You're talking about why people come to America, American dream, and you're talking about immigrants. Where are you going? He says, we need to start all in the real estate industry, start linking home ownership to the American dream. So guess what happened? Every real estate company and bank all got on the same page. Every commercial was about, oh my gosh, babe, this key. Oh, baby, we're living the American dream. Give me a kiss, babe. Oh, this is so amazing.
Carrying over the front door, walking to the house.
I want to live the American dream. And then people started saying, I'm living the American dream. What is the American dream? We bought a house.
Home ownership.
Oh, home ownership's the American dream. See, millennials don't believe that today. So the real estate industry has to all come together and put together the sickest campaign to remind millennials why they ought to own their own home. And you can't just sell it from the home ownership side. You have to sell it from the control side. You have to sell it to, you can do it the way you want to do it. If you're renting a house and you're living in a place, but it's somebody else's, you can't paint the wall the way you have to get permission. Do you want permission? But if you own your own house, you can do whatever you want. You can change the colors, you can put the bathtub here. Don't you want that kind of control? See, but people, if I was in real estate, that's my language. But if you're not speaking that language, you can't make those kinds of adjustments. So I don't think the real estate guys are taking the right approach right now. I think they need help tremendously to kind of pivot and know how to connect with these millennials, because they do not want to buy a house right now.
They don't, yeah, the majority of, anyway, I deal with, Pat, the people we deal with, brother, I deal with challenged credit people that have a down payment and we get them in and out of houses. I'm not the guy that's driving around warm and fuzzy, the people that you referred to that are looking for pretty houses and they want to go to the bank and get a loan. That's not my clientele. We do lease options, owner finance, a whole different, creative financing. Pat, we have people lined up to get in our houses because we give them the American dream that you just talked about without having to go to the bank. So I've never had a problem with that, but I still want to know about this passive cash flow as people get older, Pat. They don't have an additional income stream. Where are you at with that? I'm concerned about our baby boomers. I mean, if you're not in real estate, what are you going to do? You're not, because you personally don't do it, so what are you thinking?
No, but here's the part. I'm also, I don't knock it to say nobody should do it. I'm telling you what my vision is, why I chose to get away from real estate and put my money elsewhere, because I'm not, but the majority, like for instance, so gold. Should you buy gold? Should you not buy gold? There's a party that says what? No, you shouldn't buy gold. Because why? Because gold is the ultimate product you're selling of Armageddon. It's the Armageddon sale. Why is it the Armageddon sale? Because if somebody buys gold, what they're trying to tell the world is currency is going to go down and the economy is, it's going to be war and all this stuff, and that's why you should carry gold, okay? And then there's the other party that says you shouldn't buy it. Who cares about gold? It's only going to make you 3% return every year, if that. Do you really want to be sitting on gold? Do you really, can't really, so both sides have arguments. I think there's an argument for having gold. I do think there's an argument for having gold. Real estate, should you go into the game and have some investment properties that pay you a source of income? I do. What percentage of risk would I take? I don't know if I would go a lot, because I've also seen the flip side where people go too heavy and in a time like this takes everything away from them. Yeah. I rented an office in Woodland Hills where the guy who was running my office that I took over, it was a beautiful office. The guy spent $500,000 on his office. It was insanely done. Everything was flawless. He had $1.5 billion of real estate holdings. Wow. 08 came, that went to nothing, and he lost it all. And he was living in a beautiful home. So the concern becomes when somebody goes like this, without being prepared for a time like this. I'm not a fan of that. But if you do it strategically and you go into it in a way that's going to work out for you long term, then you should be fine.
Wow, I got you. Okay, I'm glad I was able to. Okay, so
you'd be surprised. That's my position. And by the way, that's been my position always. It's been my position.
Yeah, it hasn't changed.
No, it's been my position always.
Well, I just want to ask you, my friend, passive. It's been beat into my head. We invest for cash flow. Forget, you can't. My mentor used to say you can't eat equity. You know, so it's like we invest. I want the cash flow monthly, and I hear you talk about cash is king, but I don't hear you talk a lot about cash flow though.
Yeah, because I'm playing for my interest is bigger play. I have plenty of cash flow coming in. I don't talk about
cash flow is not even on your radar.
Not at all. No, because cash flow is automatic. Look, I can do Valuetainment because I don't need Valuetainment's money. Like, you know, Valuetainment in the last 2 months has made us, I don't know, $900,000, okay? But it's not the money, it's not the business I run. That money allows me to pay people and get nice equipment, but I don't take any income from Valuetainment. I've never taken income from Valuetainment. It just kind of sits there and it's kind of going and growing the business. PHP, my insurance company, that brings me plenty of cash flow. But what is being built on both ends is a ton of equity. And that's what excites me, because to do what I want to do long term, I need a lot of money.
We'll get to that one. It's been said, Pat, successful entrepreneurs have multiple streams of income. I hear you, we were just talking about that. How many income streams do you have now, Pat, and what would you recommend for entrepreneurs watching?
I recommend, and I know this is going to be getting crazy, I recommend you having one until you get to $10 million. A scalable income until you get to $10 million. I'm not a fan of multiple streams of income. I'm not a fan of that. I remember having 4 girlfriends at one point, And nothing was worse than calling Mary, Cindy, because I forgot. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. And it's like, but my name is, I'm like, yeah, I know, I just totally forgot. And it was the biggest headache trying to please all four when I was 21. And I said, you know what? I just don't want that headache. I'm good with it. So it was more, here we go. This is what I'm doing, and this is the relationship I'm in. Career-wise, for me, is very similar as well. I love minimizing the amount of products I'm selling to make it focused, and then I'll scale. Amazon started with books only. Then he scaled his distribution. Then he said, we'll do other things. People forget the subscription game and the distribution game, right? Once you have a bigger distribution, then you can decide to pivot and look at other opportunities. But too often people do it too early. So I put 28% of my time into this business. I put 32% of my time into this. I put 50% of my time. No. I'm 100% in one business. And I'm going all in. And then when I build this thing and it's worth 5, 10, 15, 20 million dollars, then I'll consider looking at other things. But until that point, I'm fully focused. So I'm not going to be the guy that you hear on social media talking about, you know, Warren Buffett said you need multiple streams of income. Yes, Warren Buffett can say that because Warren Buffett is worth, he started doing that when he was already worth $10, $20 million, and his full focus was on building one company first. And then he started looking around. People, I can say a quote. So people ask me a question, they'll say, what do you think about this? Then they'll quote me. Yeah, but you're quoting the 41-year-old Pat that only pertains to somebody that is in my position today at 41. I remember one time a guy came up to me and he said, you know what, Patrick? I said, what's that? He says, you know, there was this other guy in the insurance industry that I used to work with him back in the 70s. When he would walk into the room would stop. I said, interesting. It's like he says, in 84, when he would walk into the room would stop. I said, really? He said, yes. He says, you walked in the room didn't stop. Now this man's in his 60s, 65, he's in his 70s right now, but at that time, when he said this to me, 10 years, he was about 60 years old at the time when he said this to me. I said, really? So when I walked in, nobody says, no one stopped. Why do you think that is? I said, you know, let me take you to P.F. Chang's. We went to P.F. Chang's afterwards. I always remind him of this story. I said, do you know how old I am? He said, yeah. How old am I? 30 years old. The guy that walked into the room when the room stopped, when he walked in, how old was he when he did it? He was probably about 60 years old. How long had he been building his business? He said, 30 years. He had already been established. I said, he says, you know what? That's a good point. So I don't let assessments like that shake me. In my mind, I have to put it very simple, immediate perspective for me to say, I got it. So for example, if today we're looking at doing giveaways for some people that we want to go live and want to help some people out, I'm sitting in a room with 4 people. I'm asking questions of what women who have kids are thinking about. What essential products do they need? 2 guys are single, and one of our ladies here is single. So I looked around real quick. Instantly, I'm like, none of you guys have a clue. None of us have a clue. I said, let's go around the office and talk to women who have kids and see what essentials they need. Then I went there and asked them. Too many times a Buffett gives a quote about multiple streams of income, and he says it at 65 years old, and people take it as if the 28-year-old Warren Buffett would have done the same thing he's doing today. No. This is why you have to ask the question. When you were 28, and you were making this much money, and you were single, and you didn't have kids, and you didn't own a house, what did you do then? Versus, what do you think about this? That general question doesn't give you the answer that you're looking for, and quite frankly, a lot of times not asking the right question confuses the hell out of people, because then you're like, how am I going to do that? And it creates insecurities, and it doesn't generate the best version of you. But the moment I go to the right question at the right time, at the time that I can relate to, that gives me a lot of clarity.
Wow, gotcha. I think it sounds like we have to be more clear with the questions we're asking, Pat.
I think so, with the timing of when we're asking. You know, so my wife and I are about to get married, and I'm sitting down, we go to a marriage counselor, and we go with this marriage counselor, nice Christian guy, very nice guy. We go in and he talks very calm. Hi, how are you? It's great. You mind if I started with a prayer? No problem. We hold hands. Heavenly Father, and we go through this whole thing together, right? I'm like, okay, cool, no problem. I mean, it's my favorite church in the world, so I'm good. So then we start asking about what's the key to the right marriage. You know, My wife and I have been together for 30 years. My parents were together for 50 years. My grandparents were together for 60 years. You know what's the one rule we had that helped us make the marriage work on every single one of them that's been going for 3 generations straight? What was it? Every night for 30 years, my wife and I have had dinner at 6 p.m. every night. I said, can I ask you a question? He says, yes, what is it? I said, what did your dad do? He was a teacher. What did your grandfather do? He was also a teacher. What do you do? I'm a teacher. I said, I'm not a teacher. I said, you know what, thank you so much for your time. I got up, I said, babe, we're leaving. I'm telling you, my wife said, babe, there's 5 minutes into it. I walk out. I still paid the $200, and I walked out. So we left. Why did I walk out? If I'm living a teacher's life, I get it. If my wife for a split second thinks that I'm going to commit to that, she's being misrepresented, and I'm not doing that because that's not the life I chose to live. So if she can't accept that, she's not going to be happy being married to a guy like this. So then I went and I had her meet with the senior pastor's wife, okay? Mm-hmm. So he meets with this lady. Her name is Renee. And I said, why don't you guys meet together? So they meet together and she says, do you really know who you're marrying? Because her husband and I are best friends. So she says to my wife, are you sure you want to marry him?
Talking about you.
Talking about me.
This crazy guy.
And she says, you sure you want to marry this guy? She says, yeah. Are you sure? Yes. Can I tell you why? I said, yeah. So let me explain to you, what your husband does is what my husband does. My husband runs a church, but your husband runs a company where a bunch of people want his time. So you're going to lose some of your attention to the people that want his time. He's going to be on the phones late. He's going to be traveling a lot. He's going to be away a lot. You're going to have to do a lot of things with the kids. You have to be in charge of the kids' calendar. You have to, and she went through all this stuff. And he's a hard-charging guy, so whenever he wants sex, and she covered everything. So then she comes back. And I said, so how was it? She says, very different. I said, what was different about it? She says, babe, this is exactly who you wanted me to meet. I said, tell me what she said. And she says, this is the affirmations I tell myself, my priorities are how to take care of my husband. She gave that to my wife. Wow. Number 8 was sex. And she says, my husband always wants me to make 8 number 1. Okay, she jokes about it. And this is pastor's wife. Okay? So I said, bingo, this is exactly what it is. Now we're talking. Do you want to marry this guy before I propose? So we went through this before. So again, when you're saying maybe we ought to ask the better questions, we ought to have the better questions, but also based on whose life I want to live. If you don't want to live my life, I'm the wrong guy to ask the questions with. If you want to live the life of the guy that's at 6 o'clock, go talk to him. Don't talk to me because I'm bad news for you. But if you want to live the life of a crazy guy being something, building something big and potentially either making it or losing everything, then I'm the right guy to talk to.
Mario said he considers you a wartime general. How have you built this passion to be able to accept all this stress, Pat?
Humor, levity, jokes, pranks. The more the pressure you have, the more you have to find an escape. If you don't have it, you're gonna break. You're gonna break. Because when I was in the military, I never forget, we're going through low crawling, and they had the fence above us, not the fence, what do you call the wires above us, and it's late at night and it's muddy, and right above us, 3 feet above us, semi-automatic saws, they're hitting up, okay? They're shooting the other side, which the other side's a bunch of mountain and it's dirt. And just, and they said, we're testing to see if you're ready in case you go to war, if this noise messes with you, okay? So you're low crawling, you're low crawling, you're low crawling, you're going. And we're hearing this sound, go back and forth. We're hearing the sound, go back and forth. All of a sudden, one guy can't handle it. Guess what he does?
Stands up.
He stands up. You know what happens? Now, he didn't die, but he got shot up, okay? And we had to, they sent him out of the military, okay? And they did this exercise multiple times, and one of the guys at the unit ended up, unfortunately, he ended up dying because he got shot up in the head. But guys are typically, but that was an exercise where you kind of like, you're going through it, right? So imagine you're in war, and you're in Afghanistan, or you're in Iraq, or wherever you're going to be at. And you're my buddy, I'm your buddy. I mean, if we're going there and I'm going to run, and you can't handle the pressure, you don't belong in the military. You got to go to the back. You can't go into front lines with me, right? So in the world of business, while you're building a business, this is why many times you watch war movies, you will see how much sarcasm, how many jokes, shots, constant pranks. That is a method of calming the nerves down. You know, Jordan was famous for switching Garnett's shorts from a XL. He put an extra small short for Garnett when he went to his first All-Star. Garnett puts it, she's like, what is this all about? You know, in baseball, they put fire on your shoes, you know, and they light it up. These are all things that loosens things up. The bigger the vision of a company, the more loose they have to be, because the people have to be willing to handle the pressure. If you make it really tight the entire time, it's a very tough environment to be around for too long. Very.
In real estate, we exercise, I told you earlier, the buy and hold strategy is my favorite one. Pat, I've heard you say in several interviews, I'm a long haul investor. What do you mean by that?
If I'm buying, why am I selling? You know, if I'm buying, why would I be selling? Now, let me tell you, if you make me a good offer, I'm going to sell and I will entertain it. You know, the only things that I don't resell are things that were given to me by my family that have a meaning behind it. You can't pay all the money in the world for me to give that to you. My dad gave me a pinky ring. He's worn that since I was born. You pay me $1 million, I wouldn't sell that to you. It's probably worth $20. I wouldn't sell it to you because I want to give that to my kids and I want them to give it to their grandkids because my dad is a very special human being in my life, right? Now I got a Wayne Gretzky card. That's a $750,000 card. If you told me you were going to buy it right now for $1.2 million, I'd probably sell it to you, okay? But if I don't get any offers and I keep it for the next 5-10 years, that car's probably going to sell for, I don't know, $3 to $5 million in the next 10 years. So it all depends. If I can take that money and move it quickly to somewhere else, I would do it. Because if the car's worth $750, if you want to pay me $1.2, I make that additional $550 on it and $450 on it. And I can take that $450 and take it to buy another car at the price that's market. I'm good. But almost everything else is just buy and hold and sit on it. You're going to be fine long term.
So that's what your position is?
Yeah.
How about in the book you have, in your book, Drop Out and Get Schooled, Pat, I'm going to rewind and go back in time a little bit. You said you had to shift from being a rebel without a cause to being a rebel with a worthy cause. How did you make that shift? I'm just remembering me when I was in the music business, our first publishing deal, $200,000, and back in 2001, I went broke. You know, living on my friend's couch, $80 in my pocket. That's what helped me make that shift. How did you go from being, I could imagine you being a rebel without a cause, you know.
Yeah, so I'm telling you, the shift for me, if you watch the video, Life of an Entrepreneur in 90 Seconds, it's that scene when I'm in the car and I'm holding the steering wheel. It's when I was at the hospital, my dad was at a hospital, government hospital, and they were kind of just treating him regularly. And I got pissed off and I started throwing stuff around and cops came and they threw me out of the hospital. I'm in the car crying. My dad had a heart attack. I'm furious. I want him to be treated better. And the guy said, he said to me, he says, listen, man, what do you want to do? This is a government hospital. You ain't paying for this. He's not paying. This is taxpayers' money.
Oh, wow.
You don't have any right to say
he's
anything.
In the VA.
And he's right. He's absolutely right. I left. I said, you know what? I don't ever want to hear something like that being said. I'm going to go work and make my own money, so that's never going to take place. That night, I cried like a baby. The next day, I got up. I went to work. My eyes changed within 24 hours. Like, you didn't recognize me 24 hours later. Like, if you called me and you said, let's go to the clubs, you ain't going to see me at the clubs. That was it for me. That day, the old guy died. So that's when I went from rebel without a cause to rebel with a cause.
And your cause was what? After that, what was your cause?
Capitalism. Because it gives me the chance to become who it's the ultimate great equalizer of a system, if you think about it. Socialism is not the great equalizer of a system. Politicians' life is not the great equalizer of a system, because the person in politics who can play the game better can manipulate and hurt me tremendously because he knows how to play the game better. In capitalism, you can be great at the game and manipulating, but if you're not as good as delivering a product as I am, and you're not willing to work, you don't have the tolerance, you don't have the wherewithal to kind of figure things out, you can't last a long time, and you don't improve as fast as me, kiss it goodbye, you will not be in my league long term. So capitalism allows me to go up against any manipulator, any person that plays games, and you're gonna lose if I make a better offer than you, because you have to work and get better in capitalism. So the moment I realized how capitalism worked, I said, here's a guy that's Middle Eastern. Think about it. 9/11 takes place. Who hit the towers? Middle Easterns did, okay? From where I'm at. So I'm going into markets, sitting down with people, and they're looking at me, and they're looking at the screen while Fox and CNN is showing whoever the folks are, and they look like me, the big ears, big nose, and I'm sitting here telling you to invest with me, and you're sitting there saying, I remember one time I sat with a family, it was a Mormon family, nice family, I'm friends with them till today, and they took me to their parents, and their parents sat down and they said, you know what, I just don't feel comfortable doing business with somebody from Iran. I said, fair enough, it's fine. I said, can you tell me why? He says, do you see what your family did, what your people did? I said, tell me what my people did. This is 9/11. I said, okay. I said, what else? What else outside of that? I wasn't getting upset. I simply wanted to get perspective from them, right? But guess where I'm at right now? How did I get up here? Because of capitalism. Nobody can hold me down because I don't have a 4-year degree. My parents got a divorce and I was a 1.8 GPA. You cannot. That system is such a great equalizer system. Great Equalizer is a gun. The reason why they call it Great Equalizer is because a 5-foot woman can go against a guy your size and my size, and that's the Great Equalizer. It doesn't matter how big you are. This 5-foot woman can officially take you and I out. Yeah. Capitalism allowed you and I. You're not white. You're black, right? What am I? I'm Middle Eastern.
Middle Eastern.
What the hell is going? How come you and I are? How come you're wearing a nice suit, nice shoes? You look like $1 million. You look like $10 million, right? But you're sitting here, coming here with your team and your cameras, and you and your partner here, we're talking, and look at me here. How am I sitting here? Why am I being interviewed? How did you get your YouTube channel to be at, what is it, 75,000 subs or 57,000 subs? Yeah. Some number. How did that happen? That doesn't happen by luck. That's 70,000 people. How did you get there? It's called capitalism. So for me, the moment I realized I don't like to be controlled, I don't like to be manipulated, I don't like people to play games. The game of capitalism allows me to compete, and you can play all the games you want, but if I put the better strategies together, I can last longer than you, you're eventually going to have to say, hate to say it, but you win. That's right. That's the beautiful part of it.
Crazy.